Hey guys, Technomentary here with a video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing iOS 15.3, the latest version of the iOS version on the iPhone XS Max. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about some of the top features of iOS 15 and also talk about the battery life, the performance, and finally answer the big question whether iOS 15 is worth upgrading to. As you know, this has been around for some time, but this is more a long-term review of our experience with iOS 15, so stay tuned. So if you haven't updated to the latest version of iOS 15 and you're looking to upgrade, it's pretty straightforward and simple to do. You can simply just go into settings, and once you go in settings, under general and software update, you'll notice that there's an update available. Now, as you can see here, at the time of recording this video, we decided to upgrade to the latest available iOS update, which is 15.3.1. So we're up to date. This is the general public update. Of course, iOS 15.4 beta and such are already out for testing, but this is the one that you want to be on if you're looking to upgrade the latest version. Now, over time, it's always good to have your phone updated because of software issues and all sort of things that come out that the Apple fix. Now, if you stayed on iOS 14, you can still stay on iOS 15, and it's a personal choice, but let's go ahead and break down a couple of the top features of iOS 15 on the iPhone XS Max. So the iPhone XS Max, if you guys don't know, this phone was released back in September of 2018. Now this phone is a flagship phone, which means it's been around and it's one of those premium devices. So you paid almost $1,000 or more to get this device, even at the base model. And now this phone is going over just a little over 3 years or so. Later in this year, it's going to hit 4 years. But again, not a lot has changed comparing to the iPhone 13 Pro, which is an equivalent comparison of the iPhone XS here. So let's talk about some of the features that you'll notice if you upgrade to iOS 15. So the first feature is probably you're going to be interested is that focus mode here. When you pull down that control menu, click on this, you'll notice that in the past, what used to be just do not disturb, now you have a couple options. You have personal, work, sleep, and you can also customize your own focus mode. So what focus mode allows you to do is set your phone in a mode where you can filter out notification based on your custom settings. For example, if you have a personal, you might have personal people being able to reach out, and if you have work, maybe there's certain limited people like your colleague that can contact you or reach out. And finally, sleep, maybe all of your notifications are turned on. Now it's a way to really help you be more productive throughout your day. As you know, with smartphone nowadays, you're simply on your device all the time, so it's a neat feature that you want to go ahead and explore. Now the next top feature of iOS 15, it's going to be around on FaceTime. So there's been a lot of improvement on the FaceTime, and rightfully so, because in 2022, even in last year, when everything seems to become virtual, you want to be able to FaceTime. A lot of people start to use FaceTime to video chat with their friends and family, to get in touch, even conference call and meetings and such. Now with the FaceTime, you were able to now on iOS 15 send a link to anyone, whether they have an Android or simply a browser, and they can actually join your FaceTime, which in the past was simply limited to iPhone user or simply anyone that had an Apple device. Now that kind of expanded. Now there's other features that happen on FaceTime as well, such as spatial audio and also enhancement to the video where your face portrait looks more natural. So it gives you a lot of improvement on the front facing camera here. The next, of course, thing that you want to probably take note, it's going to be around the whole notification area here. We don't have it right here, but there has been a lot of improvement around giving more summarized notifications here. Now let's move on to the next set of things you probably might be interested. It's going to be enhancement to Siri. So with every new iOS update, Apple does go ahead and update Siri. Now Siri's gotten a little bit smarter. You have this offline mode where you can ask Siri questions even if you're not on the internet, and you can actually have it do on the device computation and sort of giving you an answer instead of reaching out to the Apple server every single time, which does cause a delay. So it's a little bit faster in that sense and a little bit smarter. Again, that's going to be another thing to note. Now let's move on to the next feature, which again, this feature I think is probably one of the coolest feature. It's going to be this live text mode. Now this is available on certain models of iPhone 10 and above, which allows you to simply take a picture, or if you're on portrait mode, if you look at a text now, if it recognizes text, you can click on it and actually copy that text and move it around. So this is really helpful, especially if you take a photo or a bunch of text and you want to be able to copy and paste it somewhere else. Now you can do that. You can do all sorts of text manipulation with this live text feature. Now it also works for photos as well. If you took a photo, it doesn't have to be right opening up the camera. So big feature for iOS 15 that a lot of people have started to utilize. Now the next feature you might be worth mentioning, it's going to be system-wide translation. So in the past, the translation sort of feature was limited to certain application. Now you're actually able to go ahead and translate across the board for a lot of other applications. Now this feature will pop up once you do select text. For example, here if we select a text and hit that translate, now there are multiple languages that Apple has expanded, and there's going to be a bunch more that are going to be added. Again, as you know, in the past it is sort of limited to a couple languages, so that's another thing to look out for. Now if you use the health app on your iPhone, there's been a major improvement in terms of monitoring your health. Now if you have this profile set up for you, is that now you're able to simply go ahead and monitor trends. So if you have irregular heartbeat, again, you have some sort of health condition where the phone health app recognizes it, will let you notify. Again, this is not going to be a trusted source. You don't want to replace going to the doctors with this, but it's something that you can do in terms of seeing a lot more trend in terms of being able to get notified early, so you can go to the doctor and get things checked out. Again, there's things around your heart, your body measurement cycle, and all this other respiratory stuff that if you haven't taken advantage of, not a lot of people do take a look at that. Now let's move on to some of the other noticeable things. It's going to be around simply enhancements to a bunch of applications that you might have not noticed, but first thing is going to be probably around Safari, which needed a major update for a really long time. You'll notice now you have the bar down here for browsing, but even more so is that these tab groups that are now introduced. So now with these tab groups, you can simply have groups of tabs. So let's say if you're a person that has a bunch of tabs, maybe you want to isolate and group different tabs, maybe some for work, some for play, some for certain events or something. You can actually start grouping them in pretty much these tab group and then renaming these tab group. Again, much improvement so that Apple kind of want a user to start utilizing Safari instead of using third-party apps. Also, there's a bunch of other updates to other apps, such as the weather app. So if you open up weather right now, you'll notice that icons and the widgets have been cleaned up a little bit more. You'll notice things like heat map improvement across the board around temperature, when it rains. There's also a way to get notified now whenever it rains or snows on your iPhone, which in the past weren't be able to do. So a lot of improvement around there. Also improvement around the Maps application. Now, if you haven't noticed, the Map application needed an update, and Apple does want you to use their Map application. They started to do things around interactive globe, all city experience, walking directions, and much more improvement, which you can play around. If you're a user of the map, you probably notice it, and if you're not, it's pretty cool to be able to just play around with things as well. Now, other noticeable updates are going to be around the wallet app. So the wallet app, in the past, you were just able to simply add credit and debit card and certain passes. Now you can add in some state your driver's license, your identification card, things like that are allowed now. That's a big improvement around things like adding your keys as well. So a bunch of improvements in going forward. There's also a new feature for a drag and drop where you can simply drag a photo across applications. There's been updates to the Notes app, as you notice here, some of the updates around organizing tags, mentions in your note, and activity view, and much more going on if you use the Note app as well. Now let's talk about the thing that you want to know, which simply is battery life on iOS 15. So what has happened with battery life on iOS 15 is an issue. Well, you can see from here, when you do upgraded, the battery life, surprisingly, there wasn't any impact to the battery life. So right now, this phone has been around. We used it for some time. It's at 90%, and that's normal for this phone, which is almost over 3 years now, going to be hitting 4 years later this year. So 10% down. That's going to happen over time. Batteries are meant to degrade. You'll notice here the battery level here simply is pretty steady here on a normal usage. What would be interesting is that if you see a huge drop in it, but battery wise, the battery has been stable on iOS 15.3 latest version. We haven't noticed any sort of issue or spike or drainage that usually happens when you do release a major update. The iPhone XS here does have a pretty good battery size. It has almost 2659 mAh battery. It gives you about 14 hours of video playback compared to 22 hours on the iPhone 13 Pro, which is going to be an equivalent comparison. Of course, that phone is a couple generations ahead. They'll expect you're not going to be having that big of a battery. Now let's talk about performance. So performance so far on iOS 15 actually has been optimal. So usually when you do upgrade a phone, big concern is that your apps and such will be slow. That is not the case on iOS 15.3 on iPhone XS. So performance has been optimal. Apps have been functioning the way they're supposed to. There is no app crashes or issues that we have seen with all of the major apps, from productivity tool to shopping tool to simply gaming, all of your favorite social media application, even video streaming apps like YouTube, Netflix. All of that have been stable and well. So if you have iPhone XS Max and are thinking, should I upgrade to iOS 15, we're going to say, yeah, go ahead and upgrade it, because later this year you're going to have iOS 16 come out, and by then iOS 14, if you're still on it, it's going to be sort of at the end of its major update, and to be able to get supported on the latest version, you probably want to go to iOS 15, considering that this phone has been released on iOS 12 and iOS 15 is only a couple generations ahead, and knowing that Apple supports their devices for almost close to 6 years now that we've seen on the iPhone 6s, it's definitely worth upgrading to iOS 15 on the iPhone XS. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys have any comments, upgrade it to iOS 15, let us know your experience in the comment section. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.